Imagine standing in the middle of Jerusalem, where millions of people believe one incident, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, turned the course of human existence. Still unresolved, though, is exactly where this enormous sacrifice took place. Visitors from all over the world have come to this holy city bearing crosses and retracing the steps to Golgotha, commonly known as the place of the skull, for over 2,000 years. But is the place recalled at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre really where Jesus was crucified? Could another location, perhaps, offer the key to this riddle? Unbelievably beautiful evidence of Golgotha's legitimacy rests under Jerusalem's old lanes, layers of stone and dirt. Archaeological investigations, ancient Roman gateways, and even signs of gardens connected to the Bible are revealing secrets leading to the truth. These findings not only validate the traditional site, but also convey a story of faith, destruction, and endurance spanning millennia. Come explore with us the puzzle of Golgotha from below. We shall review the overwhelming evidence that makes this site most archaeologically and historically significant, from the early Roman remains and Byzantine churches to the questionable claims of Skull Hill. This is a thorough investigation of love, sacrifice, and atonement, not merely a voyage into the past. You will uncover the reason this holy hill is seen as the greatest emblem of pure love, where Jesus Christ shed his life for the sins of mankind. Get ready for a thorough investigation that will challenge your knowledge of faith, the past, and the legacy of Golgotha. What you find could permanently change your viewpoint of this critical period in human history. From Golgotha, sometimes called the place of the skull, Jesus traveled a painful path. The weight of the wooden cross rested greatly on his shoulders as he made his way across Jerusalem's streets. People lined the streets, some openly crying, some turning away in silence, and still others screaming insults and contempt. Using methods they had practiced many times before, Roman soldiers carried out their horrible mission at Golgotha with learned efficiency. The nails pushed his hands and feet across the rough-hewn cross with appalling accuracy. In severe agony, Jesus turned to face the gathering throng with unyielding compassion and entire pardon. Written centuries before in religious scriptures, painstakingly saved and studied, his sacrifice fulfilled long-held prophecies. As darkness descended on the planet, Jesus carried the spiritual weight of mankind's collective sins, in addition to the physical anguish of crucifixion. He chose to freely undergo this suffering, knowing it would facilitate mankind's atonement and reconciliation with God. Viewers of the crucifixion felt more than just execution. They observed the outcome of lofty promises. The Son of God offered his life as the last sacrifice for every human being. His words of pardon revealed the immense depth of his compassion for all people, including those who had harmed him, even in his dying hours of anguish. Golgotha's significance extends far beyond that terrible day. It is always a tribute to the changing power of divine pity and, at least, love. Jesus offered everyone who will believe in his sacrifice hope and atonement with his death, therefore bridging the supposedly insurmountable barrier separating humans from God. Originating as a tool of death, the cross at Golgotha developed into a universal emblem of hope, atonement, and divine love. By means of his willing sacrifice, Jesus paved the path for mankind's entire atonement with God, therefore completing the prophecies delivered over the millennia. His death announced not a death, but rather a major beginning, the beginning of a new covenant between God and people. The hours of his suffering have immense significance since Jesus showed unwavering faith, in front of both bodily anguish and mental suffering. Despite experiencing unprecedented suffering, every moment on the cross demonstrated his determination to fulfill the divine will. His determination to endure exposed the depth of his love for humanity. The range of strong emotions felt by some who saw the crucifixion was grief, fear, uncertainty, and, for others, a waking understanding of the cosmic relevance of these events. Even the toughest Roman soldiers began to sense that this death was different from the numerous others they had carried out. The approaching gloom and unusual events preceding Jesus' death permanently altered everything. The story of the crucifixion at Golgotha shows us that hope and light may triumph even in very dark and apparently lost times. Jesus' ready sacrifice demonstrates how unselfish love may defeat hate and how divine mercy might win over human vengeance. His death fulfilled God's divine will and unveiled the everlasting promise of atonement and life. Golgotha's occurrences signal the pinnacle of divine love expressed by enormous sacrifice. Not merely a historical event, Jesus' death was a cosmic turning point that drastically transformed the relationship between God and mankind. Through his suffering and death, Jesus cleared the way for each individual to continue on spiritual rejuvenation and ongoing atonement with their Creator. The crucifixion at Golgotha reminds us continually of the weight of human guilt, as well as the immense depth of divine love. Jesus' sacrifice gives hope that everyone, by means of faith, might experience the changing power of divine forgiveness and grace, therefore transcending any person's reach for God's love. Deeply historically important, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre sits in the middle of Old Jerusalem. Archaeological excavations have produced strong evidence confirming this site as the actual Golgotha, the spot of Jesus' crucifixion. Researchers have discovered remains of a stone quarry dating back to the 1st century under the foundations of the cathedral. The distinctive geological characteristics of this quarry fit closely with historical descriptions of Golgotha, particularly its skull-like appearance that gave the site its unforgettable name. Consistent historical accounts from several ages point to this location. Early Christian authors highlighted the site's significance. Among them was Eusebius in the 4th century. Roman records and architectural artifacts further support the church's placement over the original crucifixion site. From the early days of Christianity, people have always held immense respect for this place. Detailed archaeological study beneath the current cathedral construction has revealed multiple layers of history. Scientists have discovered 1st century Jewish burials dug into the bedrock in line with the biblical narrative of Jesus' death. The discovery of ritual marks from early Christian pilgrims and ancient graffiti referencing Jesus enhances the legitimacy of the site. The area of the site exactly matches historical records. Situated near Jerusalem's ancient limits, as Jewish law specifies for executions, the area would have been visible to observers on nearby roads, a common Roman habit aimed to deter potential criminals. This sacred site's preservation across centuries of war and restoration demonstrates its great relevance. Despite numerous invasions, fires, and earthquakes, successive generations have painstakingly maintained and reconstructed the site, therefore retaining its relationship to one of the most significant events in history. Modern archaeology has produced fresh evidence confirming the site's authenticity. Ground-penetrating radar studies reveal ancient building designs consistent with Jerusalem from the Roman 1st century. Underneath the current church, chemical analysis of mortar and stone samples confirms the dating of earlier building projects. Architectural development of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre reflects its continuous importance. Every generation has contributed to preserving this holy monument while maintaining its historical integrity, from the earliest 4th century basilica of Emperor Constantine to medieval extensions and modern renovations. Geological studies of the bedrock have revealed that the place indeed had the skull-like appearance described in prehistoric sources. This geological evidence clearly connects the limestone to the biblical narrative. Its special qualities generated by natural erosion patterns allowed us to identify it as the place of the skull. The discovery of prehistoric quarrying techniques on the site conforms to historical records of stone acquisition in Jerusalem in the 1st century. Considered unsuitable for continued stone extraction, the abandoned quarry would have been a favorable execution place, following Roman standards of the time, isolated yet obvious. Archaeological finds close by have helped to rebuild the 1st century surroundings. Evidence of old roads, city walls, and burial places creates a comprehensive picture consistent with historical accounts of Jesus' crucifixion and death. The spatial interaction in this component helps authenticate the location. The continuous respect this place evokes over various civilizations and eras adds even more proof of its significance. Though political and theological policies in Jerusalem have changed, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre has been a constant focal point of Christian pilgrimage. Its authenticity has been accepted even by non-Christian authorities throughout history. Renowned archaeologist Virgilio Corbo revolutionized our understanding of this sacred site by first doing pioneering excavations at Golgotha in the 1960s. His team diligently discovered evidence of an ancient garden that precisely matched the thorough accounts of Jesus' crucifixion and burial place given in the New Testament. Among the garden surprises were investigations of soil composition, irrigation systems, and 1st century plant remains, especially. These findings provided concrete proof of the biblical story, describing a garden scene in which Jesus was crucified and subsequently buried nearby in a tomb. The neatly maintained layers of soil revealed a deliberately designed space, implying the garden belonged to someone with means. Later, archaeological digs by Nachman Avigad also yielded significant findings, providing ample evidence of Jerusalem's ancient city walls and gates. Following Jewish customs forbidding executions within the city, his team discovered well-preserved Roman-era highways and architectural features, unequivocally proving Golgotha's location outside the city walls during Jesus' period. Wheel ruts and wear patterns matching 1st century traffic patterns clearly indicated significant use in the unearthed Roman roadways. These paths saw Jesus travel to the execution location, carrying his cross. The arrangement of the archaeology confirms the public character of the crucifixion, as reported historically, which visitors arriving and leaving Jerusalem could observe. Extensive stratigraphic investigation of the dig sites revealed clear signs of 1st century activity and multiple layers of occupancy. Among the uncovered objects were coins, ceramic fragments, and architectural parts, allowing a precise date for the site's use during the crucifixion of Jesus. Most importantly, the discovered gate complex provided evidence of the limits of the 1st century city. Its materials and construction techniques matched those of other known Roman-era Jerusalem buildings, therefore attesting to its use during Jesus' lifetime. The position of the gates helped scientists understand the connection between the city itself and the site of the crucifixion. Chemical analysis of garden area soil samples found indications of agricultural techniques common in Jerusalem in the 1st century. Particularly specific mineral deposits and organic components confirmed long-term agriculture. therefore confirming the biblical description of a preserved garden area near the crossroads. Archaeological digs exposed a complex system of cisterns and water channels fit for supporting garden maintenance. In line with its designation as a private garden for a rich individual, these cutting-edge irrigation systems underlined the importance of the ground and the significant maintenance required on it. Further excavations revealed traces of first-century conventional tomb construction techniques. The discovered tomb architecture resembled other known Jewish burial sites of the time, therefore supporting the historical accuracy of the biblical account about the burial of Jesus in a recently constructed tomb. The discovered Roman roadways made use of modern-approved engineering methods like suitable drainage systems and well-placed paving stones. This infrastructure would have facilitated people's transportation to and from the crucifixion site, thereby corroborating historical accounts of individual visits. With ceremonial signs and symbols spanning the 1st and 2nd centuries, the archaeological data alludes to early Christian prayer at the site. These findings suggest continuous respect for the significance of the place from the initial days of Christianity. Sophisticated dating techniques allowed researchers to confirm that the discovered architectural fragments and remains precisely matched the date of Jesus' crucifixion. The combined data generates a solid archaeological chronology, supporting the historical reality of Golgotha and its surroundings. Roman Emperor Hadrian, deliberately desecrating Golgotha, authorized the construction of a large temple dedicated to Venus upon this sacred Christian place in 135 AD. Ironically, this act of sacrilege helped to confirm and protect the site's genuine relevance for early Christian activity. Built with classic Roman grandeur, using big stone blocks and elaborate architectural flourishes, Hadrian's temple reflected workers filling in gaps, leveling the rocky ground, and building a big platform to service the pagan altar. Underneath its foundations, the construction process itself helped to preserve the archaeological relics and old landscape. The emperor picked Venus, the Roman goddess of love and beauty, especially to shock Christian sensibilities. By laying pagan worship over the site of Christ's crucifixion, Hadrian aimed to erase Christian remembrance and attachment to this hallowed monument. The temple was blatantly a symbol of Roman control over Christian doctrine. According to historical narratives, despite its degradation, early Christians kept a concealed respect for the monument. They passed on the knowledge from generation to generation, therefore maintaining the oral history of Golgotha's location. Later, when Constantine ordered the destruction of the temple and reconstruction of the location, their tenacious memory proved to be crucial. According to archaeological evidence, Hadrian's work crew came across and noted present Christian shrines and markings. Though they removed clear evidence of Christian loyalty, their own building records inadvertently confirmed the site's religious significance prior to their arrival. Actually, the temple's presence helped protect Golgotha's original rock from human activities and natural deterioration. Modern scientists have now discovered that the massive Roman foundations preserved significant archaeological data safely. They helped us to better appreciate the qualities of the place in the 1st century. Hadrian's attempt to quell Christian festivity backfired very spectacularly. The well-known temple was a visible sign that allowed Christians to maintain exact knowledge of Golgotha's location across centuries of persecution. The pagan shrine became an opposing emblem that enhanced rather than degraded the holiness of the land. Roman historical accounts include thorough information on the building of the temple, together with surveys and engineering studies. Originally intended for administrative use, these records today offer priceless archaeological evidence demonstrating the importance of the site to early Christians before Hadrian's arrival. Hadrian's efforts reveal the significant risk he perceived from growing Christian commitment to Golgotha. The enormous resources dedicated to building the temple reveal the site's already known importance to the early Jerusalem Christian community of the 2nd century. Clear archaeological indications of extensive quarrying and earth-moving required for the temple's construction abound. Modern excavations have revealed these layers, which help archaeologists better understand the original environment as well as the degree of Hadrian's modifications. The emperor's efforts at destruction transcended only the building of temples. Books that talk about how pagan altars, statues, and ceremonial areas were built to hide the site's Christian significance show that these changes didn't do anything but give us more information about the history of the original sacred site. Though intended to restrict Christian worship, Hadrian's deeds at last contributed to preserving Golgotha's significance and position across the years. Once Christianity at last received official recognition, the big Roman temple inadvertently acted as a marker, guaranteeing the exact spot of Christ's crucifixion. In 326 AD, Emperor Constantine ordered the destruction of Hadrian's temple at Golgotha, ushering in a new chapter for this revered site. Workers carefully tore down the pagan building, revealing Calvary's ancient rock and the tomb buried under Roman foundations for practically 2 centuries. Constantine commanded the construction of a large church complex worthy of the most holy site in Christianity. The earliest basilica consisted of rising columns, intricate mosaics, and a spectacular rotunda over the burial. Architects used the naturally occurring rock of Golgotha in their plans, therefore preserving it as the focal point of Christian devotion. The first church survived until 614 AD, when Persian troops destroyed it during their invasion of Jerusalem. With remarkable resilience, the Christian community started rebuilding almost immediately. Everywhere they could, they gathered old artifacts and painstakingly documented the restoration process to maintain the integrity of the place. Over the Middle Ages, generation after generation expanded and altered the church complex. Every restoration maintained the main elements, pointing up the sites of burial and crucifixion. Respected the site's holy nature, Muslim officials typically kept the church under security, even during political turmoil. The Crusader age brought significant architectural changes as European builders added Gothic elements in their work. Keeping the ancient holy sites in the center of the complex, they developed new chapels, strengthened walls, and enhanced the decorative elements. Their work resulted in the basic framework of the contemporary church. Natural events and fires over millennia occasionally devastated the construction, but the Christian community's commitment to preservation never faltered. Every restoration project painstakingly documented present architectural and historical continuity, spanning millennia before repairs began. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church erected a monastery on the roof during the Middle Ages, therefore adding still another degree of religious history to the site. The continuous presence of this group helps to maintain the physical construction itself, as well as religious customs. Archaeological data reveals multiple building phases, each enhancing our understanding of the site's evolution. Builders often incorporated elements from former churches into contemporary constructions, thereby physically documenting Christian dedication using architectural features. The numerous Christian groups who shared ownership of the church developed complex strategies to protect their different spheres. These agreements assured the continuous upkeep and renovation of the whole complex, depending on political circumstances, even though they sometimes led to conflict. Modern restoration efforts combine innovative techniques for conservation with conventional labor. Experts painstakingly clean centuries of candle soot from antique stones while maintaining historical graffiti detailing pilgrim paths over the years. Every project reveals new architectural details on the site. The church's numerous reconstructions form the original architectural palimpsest. From Constantine's original foundations to medieval additions and modern restorations, numerous places clearly show multiple historical periods. This layered past almost reflects the continuous religious relevance of the location. Scientists and historians continue to investigate the development of the building by utilizing modern technologies and analyzing building techniques from various eras. Despite significant political and environmental challenges over the years, their research exposes the remarkable continuity of Christian prayer at this site. The site's continuing presence of several Christian faiths, each maintaining their own chapels and liturgical areas, attests to its worldwide value. Their shared commitment to safeguarding this sacred site has assured its survival as a vibrant center of prayer, rather than as a historical monument subject to occasional conflict. Though visually striking and seeming to fit the biblical narrative of Golgotha, Skull Hill lacks the strong historical and archaeological basis that would support it as the actual site of Christ's crucifixion. Its naturally occurring granite formations give a shockingly skull-like appearance near Jerusalem's Damascus Gate. Archaeological digs at Skull Hill yield no particularly noteworthy evidence of early Christian veneration or first-century Roman execution sites. The rich archaeological record of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre contrasts strikingly with the lack of relics, burial sites, or architectural artifacts from the time of Jesus. Until the 18th century, when British General Charles Gordon publicized the site and gave it significant attention as an alternative to Golgotha, Gordon's identification mostly relied on the natural skull-like form of the rock face, rather than historical or archaeological data. This fairly modern attribution does not fit the continuous devotion custom of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, stretching back to the 1st century. Modern archaeology has not discovered any old roadways, city walls, or other Roman-era infrastructure supporting Skull Hill's proposed location for Jesus' crucifixion. Without these important historical elements, Skull Hill's claim as the actual Golgotha becomes significantly weaker. Local customs and historical accounts obviously provide no information on the religious importance of Skull Hill before the 19th century. This lack of historical memory contrasts directly with the many records and continuous dedication to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre site during Christian history. Geological studies reveal that although impressive, the hill's skull-like appearance is the result of natural erosion patterns that continued well beyond the 1st century. The current skull likeness would have contradicted one of the key arguments for this place, which might not have existed during Jesus' lifetime. Near Skull Hill, there is not any evidence of 1st century garden designs or tomb complexes fit for biblical descriptions. There is no evidence of the kind of rich garden estate detailed in the gospel accounts of Jesus' death at archaeological investigations. Early Christian writers, Roman-era historical narratives, and medieval travelers all allude nowhere to Skull Hill as a site of religious significance. This silence is especially illuminating, considering the significant attention these sources pay to other places related to Jesus' life and death. Conversely, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre insists on strong archaeological evidence supporting its validity. Its location features documented 1st century tombs, just as historical records say, and it obviously shows early Christian respect. The continuous line of architectural developments and historical documentation clearly shows its authenticity. Scientific research consistently confirms the first-century origins and continuous usage of architectural materials and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre relics. For Skull Hill, there is no such archaeological evidence. Hence, it lacks any convincing proof to support its proposed identity with Golgotha. Before modern times, the absence of any historical Christian buildings or religious monuments at Skull Hill suggests early Christians, who painstakingly preserved the memory of holy sites, did not consider this place as significant. Right now, the Holy Sepulchre occupies the spot where they concentrated their unflinching concentration. It is clear that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the real site of Golgotha, based on the large amount of archaeological, historical, and traditional evidence that points to it. Though visually arresting, Skull Hill is still a relatively new and untested concept, lacking the essential historical and archaeological foundation needed for more research. Early Christian pilgrims left behind a potent message carved in stone in the depths of ancient Jerusalem, close to the holy ground of Golgotha. "Yes, Lord, we will go." This simple but strong inscription is evidence of the immense spiritual dedication of early Christians and their aim to distribute the message of Christ's sacrifice. Carefully preserved over centuries, the location of the inscription suggests someone greatly impacted by their proximity to the scene of Jesus' death. The chosen words convey both a more general feeling of divine calling to spread the gospel message over the known earth and personal dedication. Archaeological research dates the inscription to the early Christian era, when pilgrims would go dangerously to view this holy site. The writing style and stone-cutting technique, which match other confirmed Christian relics from this age, confirm its historical authenticity. Resounding throughout millennia of Christian mission action is the pilgrim's promise of commitment. "Yes, Lord, we will go." These lines fairly capture the changing power of visiting Golgotha, where people called to share their faith with others, regardless of the personal cost, found themselves called to. Using collective language, "we will go," instead of "I will go." One is expressing a community of believers linked in their mission. This reflects the early Christian viewpoint that, upon discovering the power of Christ's sacrifice, all believers had a shared responsibility rather than merely a personal one. The preservation of the inscription near Golgotha motivated many subsequent pilgrims. Every visitor who studied these words was reminded of their own call to ministry, therefore producing an ongoing series of testimony from those early Christians to the present. The simplicity of the inscription expresses its emotional relevance and honesty. Unlike complicated formal dedications, this sincere expression of faith and dedication reveals the real response of ordinary people to their encounter with this sacred location. Historians observe that the inscription mirrors the early Christian design philosophy, where people marked holy structures with words of faith and dedication. For individuals who would then visit these sites, these marks offered both personal testimonial evidence and encouragement. The physical location of the inscription, deliberately put where travelers would stumble upon it on their journey to Golgotha, suggests an active will to inspire others. Acting as a silent witness, it exhorts the following generation to share Christ's message. Over the years, many pilgrims have touched these ancient words, offering their own silent prayers of dedication. The stone's worn-through surface honors generations of committed people, inspired by its simple dedication to divine calling. The continuous impact of the inscription reveals how personal experiences with sacred locations could inspire global projects. In this one area of commitment near Golgotha, countless missions and ministries have scattered over countries and cultures. These still relevant words challenge modern visitors to consider their own response to Christ's sacrifice. The pilgrim's old promise of dedication continues to inspire future generations to continue the work of evangelism and atonement. At the core of the Christian faith, Golgotha represents the immense relevance of divine love, atonement for sins, and the final sacrifice transcending its geographical location. This hallowed ground embodies both historical proof and the main message of Christianity. Golgotha's very stones tell a story of unassuming loyalty that spans millennia and civilizations. Here at this specific physical site, historical reality and spiritual truth merged in an event that would alter human knowledge of divine love and atonement. Although numerous personal stories confirm the immense spiritual relevance of this site, archaeological evidence supports its physical reality. Preserved over millennia, the stone surface of the execution site silently records the historical truth of Jesus' sacrifice, therefore linking modern Christians to this turning point in human history. Golgotha represents more than just a site of execution. Deeply allegorical in nature, its moniker, place of the skull, represents death turned into life, loss into victory, and suffering into atonement. This problem defines Christian understanding of atonement and sacrifice. Throughout history, pilgrims have come to Golgotha in quest of a relationship to this turning point. Many letters, notebooks, and inscriptions tell their lives and show how this physical place opens enormous spiritual experiences. Every generation discovers afresh the power of standing where human need meets divine love. The historical reality of Golgotha provides tangible evidence of Christian origins. Unlike mythological tales or legendary places, millennia of continuous respect and careful archaeological research have kept and documented the veracity of this site. Golgotha has worldwide as well as personal connotations. It symbolizes the unique manifestation of divine love through sacrifice for each individual. On a cosmic level, it is the location where Christian doctrine's redemptive plan for mankind most finds expression. Golgotha's dual nature as a spiritual emblem and a historical site lends it constant strength. The physical reality of the place grounds faith in historical fact, while the spiritual meaning of the place changes life by its message of sacrificial love and divine sympathy. Modern visitors at Golgotha encounter the same profound truths motivating the first onlookers. Although the site's preservation helps present Christians physically interact with the historical fact of Jesus' sacrifice, its spiritual value offers an everlasting message of atonement and hope. The Golgotha monument is proof of hope emerging from despair, love conquering hate, and life conquering death. Its stones, which today act as a living tribute to the transformative power of divine love shown by final sacrifice, have absorbed countless prayers and tears. Although pilgrims discover new layers of spiritual relevance at this historic location, archaeologists continue to uncover information that clarifies the historical context of Golgotha. Given its mix of spiritual importance and historical actuality, Golgotha is a unique focal point of Christian faith and activity. Constant care of Golgotha ensures that later generations will be able to enjoy both historical actuality and spiritual possibilities. Every stone, every historical mark, and every preserved feature contribute to maintaining this essential link between past events and present faith. Video final. Thinking about this road to Golgotha, the immense significance of this place in faith and history really strikes me. Golgotha is not just a site filled with archaeological evidence, but also a potent symbol of love and sacrifice. Here, Jesus faced crucifixion, absorbing human sins, a monumental act of love that drastically altered the path of history. Through research, I have come to appreciate how preserving and exploring sites like Golgotha not only deepens our understanding of history, but also strengthens faith and spiritual connection for millions of people. Every stone and every artifact here tells a story of faith, hope, and love, from which we could learn and pass on to the next generations. Among the most important things I have discovered on this trip is the devotion and faithfulness of the early Christians. They kept Golgotha's memory during ages of persecution and fight. This reminds me that every one of us has responsibilities to follow our faith and to share love and hope among the people near us. Should this movie motivate you, I suggest you start small, helping to spread its message. Please register for this channel, kindly hit the like button, and pass this video to your dear ones. If you would want to support us even more, consider making a donation to help us to keep creating such vital information. Moreover, my book Where God Came Down offers a thoughtful present for the holidays and a deeper understanding of this journey. I appreciate your participation in this research. I will include you in the upcoming videos.
Do you love meaningful Bible stories? Top 7 Bible Stories channel will bring you inspiration and peace every day. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments section. Your sharing is the motivation for us to bring more stories. Top 7 Bible Stories. Good stories, beautiful meanings.